What's up everyone, Master Fox here today. It looks like we've got our new TCG ban list effective August 29th this year. So let's jump right in. Taking a look at Forbidden, we have two cards, the first of which is Performapal Monkey Board. I have no surprises about this card being banned here. Monkey Board is just so powerful as a single card, setting up both scales, just being able to pendulum summon, and it's just such a good card in the pendulum deck that it's too powerful and too overbearing. And many times I've seen people in dire scenarios where they just manage to top deck into a monkey board and summon everything back, and they turn the tides of the game with just the monkey board top deck. And I think it's too powerful of a card, and I agree with this ban right here. Next up we have Kaiser Coliseum. This is really random. Konami's been known to always have somewhat of a single random hit on all of their ban lists pretty much, and I guess this is the random hit. There hasn't been any real tournament presence of Kaiser Coliseum, maybe except for way early on with Cosmos kind of teching them, but it's not like Kaiser Coliseum has been a really big thing, so I don't see where this came from. Not even in the OCG, I think, was Kaiser Coliseum a big thing, so this is kind of weird. One thing that some people have been saying were the fact that there was some awkward rulings or something regarding Kaiser Coliseum which caused the ban, which I don't know if it's true or not, but Kaiser Coliseum is banned. End of story. Next up, we move on to the limited section. First we have Seer, which is a solid hit against Burning Abyss, although as you see later on in this list, it doesn't quite do enough to Burning Abyss in my opinion, but we'll see that as we go on. Let's tackle the Monarch hits next, because we have Ether, and then we have Pantheism, and the Monarch Stormforth. This is major hits to the Monarch deck, being hits to consistency as well as their power plays. Their most powerful play in Ether, kind of the glue to the deck, she acts as a defensive card and offensive card. She acts powerfully in the domain build as well as the extra deck build. And so a hit to Ether just kind of slows the deck down and makes it so that it can only perform its most powerful play really once. And if you stop that, then the deck is kind of screwed over because it doesn't have any other Ether plays to fall back upon. And you can't go Ether and then summon an Ether, and then you can have a Stormforth ready to summon her on your opponent's turn anymore, because now you only have one Ether and you only have one Stormforth. So it ruins a lot of the power of the deck, because now you lose some of the spot removal as well as the power plays through Ether. And this manages to hit both types of the decks, as I mentioned before, Domain as well as the extra deck Monarchs. And then Pantheism is just a consistency hit across the board. It's just such a powerful card that gives a lot of consistency in the Monarch deck, which it really needs because it's a pretty inconsistent deck even with 3 Pantheism. So now imagine it having only 1 Pantheism, losing Stormforth, which also can act as a consistency card because it can unbrick hands where you can't summon a Monarch the first turn. And then you lose these 2 consistency cards and you lose your power plays, so what's left of the Monarch deck? What is the Monarch deck going to do? You don't have power, you don't have consistency, so the Monarch deck is pretty much screwed. I can't see it coming back into the meta, maybe tier 2 at most in some sort of other variant. At best, maybe they could use some sort of Zaborg variant or something like that. Maybe Zolkin Monarchs, since Zolkin Monarchs don't rely as much on Ether, relying more on the rank 5 plays, but still, Zolkin Monarchs are going to be a lot weaker than what's to come in the meta next, so Monarchs look pretty bad. I think Monarchs are dead. Moving on, we have Cosmo Dark Destroyer as well as Emergency Teleport. I'm skipping around a little bit just because these are the Cosmo hits I see. Cosmo Dark Destroyer is an incredibly powerful card and kind of an over-centralizing card. If your deck can't out it somehow, then you're not going to be able to compete in the meta. And so this card being limited makes a lot of sense. Emergency Teleport just kind of slows down the Cosmo deck overall a lot. And I think these are fair hits to the Cosmo decks. A lot of people were clamoring for Tin Can as well as Cosmo Town, but Dark Destroyer being limited is fine. The deck is actually somewhat inconsistent too, just kind of like Monarchs, so losing that Dark Destroyer just means that you just have to out it once, and if it's gone, that's pretty much gone for good. I know they can recycle it, but it's going to be hard to kind of consistently pump them out, so I'm fine with that. Moving on, we have hits to Magispector Unicorn Kieran. Kieran is a very annoying card, and a card that is much better than what people thought it was. People are assuming that Apex Avian would have been the end-all be-all of Pendulum decks, but it ended up being Kieran. And this makes a lot of sense. It's a very annoying, essentially hex-proof card. It's untargetable, indestructible, and it can continually bounce itself in another card as a spell speed 2 effect, making it incredibly difficult to deal with for most decks. And so limiting it is fine with me. You see the trend here. We have Cosmo Dark Destroyer, Kieran, Ether, these kind of very annoying, disruptive cards, all getting limited. Makes a lot of sense. I'm completely fine with it. And then they followed it up with an additional hit to Pendulum Call, which is a pretty hefty hit because Pendulum Call is a big consistency card for the deck. So we'll see what it does there. Pendulums got hit pretty hard. It looks like just from the Forbidden and Limited section so far that I think Burning Abyss got off the lightest of all of them. You still have your 3 Dante, but Beatrice was limited here. Beatrice, most decks ran maybe 2 at most, but using 1 Beatrice is fine with the Burning Abyss deck. I know they can't utilize the second one if they lose the first one, but it's not that bad. They only lost Seer and Beatrice, which they can shrug off. Compared to the hits that Cosmos and Monarchs and Pendulums had, I think Burning Abyss got off pretty lightly. Moving on to semi-limited, we have Max C, Thunder King Ryo, and Wind Up Magician. Thunder King Ryo and Wind Up Magician, both these cards, in my opinion, can easily go to 3, so there's nothing really to talk about there. Max C being semi-limited is kind of odd. I guess Konami's just tired of people running the card a lot in their side decks or main decks or whatever. But the thing is, most people ran 2 anyways, maybe siding the 3rd, so semi-limited seems kind of pointless to me, but I don't know. It's Konami logic. And then the unlimited section, we have Thousand Eyes Restrict, Allure of Darkness, and Gold Sarcophagus. Thousand Eyes, no need to say anything there. This card deserved to go to 3 a long, long time ago. Allure of Darkness and Gold Sarcophagus, these are kind of interesting because a lot of people are actually thinking about using these cards in Cosmo, which makes a lot of sense. Cosmo can utilize these cards with a lot of benefit because Allure of Darkness can banish your dark ships. Gold Sarcophagus can banish cards and combine with Cosmo Town to recover different cards, basically allowing you to freely search cards from your deck. So these cards can actually provide a lot of consistency for the Cosmo deck, although consistency might not be exactly what the Cosmo deck needed because basically they only lost Dark Destroyer and Emergency Teleport. Emergency Teleport is a slight hit to consistency, but Dark Destroyer is a big hit to the overall power of the deck because even if you have the consistency, now the deck doesn't really have a way to, there's no end to the consistency because you only have 1 Dark Destroyer. Where are you going with this consistency? If there's no power at the end of the day, unlimited consistency really doesn't mean very much, which brings me to the idea that Cosmos might drop the kind of demise Cosmos and just go for the Fire King Cosmos because Fire King Cosmos aren't as reliant on Dark Destroyer. They basically have their huge combo and then they can pull off a big field with Infinity and whatever else they put on there. And they're not as reliant on Dark Destroyer as other Cosmo variants are. And that's why I think Fire King Cosmos will be okay. Overall, they didn't suffer really anything that too bad that they can't survive. So these are just my general thoughts. I'm just going to summarize what I talked about. I think as for the meta decks, Monarchs are essentially dead. I can't see them recovering from this. Pendulums, they probably can combine with Metal Foes and they'll be able to be a top tier contender, though not as much as we originally thought, but they'll still be a pretty good deck. Now Cosmos, I think Cosmos will probably all switch over to the Fire King build. Fire King build should be able to compete with the meta and compete with Blue Eyes, although maybe a little bit lower. Maybe they'll end up being pushed to the top end of tier 2. But Cosmos will still be in the meta. They won't disappear anytime soon. And last but not least, we have Burning Abyss. Burning Abyss, as I said before, got off the easiest of all the 4 meta decks. And I think for sure Burning Abyss will somehow, some way find its way back into the meta. The deck is just extremely resilient and Leaving it 3 Dante to play around with just means that the deck still has a pretty good grind game, and it's still able to play around a lot of other decks. So Burning Abyss will definitely be a contender. These are just my thoughts. Tell me what you guys think in the comment section below. Give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you guys in my next video. Thank you.